Hi guys, and welcome back to Movies That Matter with the Viking. I want to give my thoughts on the possibility of a Cyborg TV series or movie on HBO Max and how I would create the project in terms of what kind of story and what kind of themes would I tell if it was up to me. Now, Cyborg is played by Ray Fisher, and of course, we got to see him in 2017 Justice League, directed by Josh Whedon. Of course, originally directed by Zack Snyder. We know all the drama and stuff there. But Zack Snyder in the past has said that Cyborg is the heart of Justice League. And of course, the Snyder Cut is announced, so in 2021 we will get to see that incarnation of the character. And this is why I'm really excited. The incarnation that we seen in 2017 of Cyborg, which I thought Ray Fisher was probably the best part of the 2017 film, though that's not his real vision of the character. That's not Zack Snyder's real vision. So I can't wait to see this because I know for a fact it's going to be way better than the one that we already got. Now, me personally, I don't know much about Cyborg until recently. Now, over the years, I've learned more about Cyborg because of the Snyder Cut, and I've looked at the character more. I've talked about Ray Fisher. He's talked about it. Zack Snyder has talked about the character. So that's kind of been my education. I haven't read any comic books regarding the character. I suppose the first time I ever seen the character was in the show Teen Titans, the cartoon show. My sister was a big fan of it when she was younger, and she was watching it, and that's where my first kind of my first depiction of the character. And that's a kid's show, and he's funny and things like that. I haven't seen Doom Patrol yet. It's not available here. I haven't seen it anywhere. So I know Cyborg is in that show also. But the only time I've ever seen Cyborg live action has been in the 2017 Justice League film. Now, what kind of way would this film work? Or TV series? Would it be better as a film, or would it be better as a TV series on HBO Max? Well, first I want to say this. There's a lot of talk of Ben Affleck's Batman coming back, Jared Leto, Deathstroke, all these things. But first and foremost, HBO Max is a business. AT&T is a business. They see money with this product of Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, I don't see them greenlighting, announcing anything publicly about future Zack Snyder Justice League films or a Ben Affleck Batman film or a Cyborg movie until they see how well Zack Snyder's Justice League does. Now, of course, I bet you they would love for it to be an absolute hit and to move forward and to do new projects, but they need to see how well this does or how bad this does. But I'm sure it's going to be great. I'm sure there's going to be huge buzz. There's already buzz about it now before the film even comes out, so I'm sure it will be okay. But they can't take a gamble. They really can't. They can't pump more money into this, into something that they don't know how well it's going to do. Now, Zack Snyder's Justice League could be a huge success and bring in loads of subscribers and be really, really good for the platform. But it could be a success, but still not the success that they thought. So that would absolutely be a thing that they look at moving forward with DC projects on the platform and how much money they are willing to invest. Now, if Zack Snyder's Justice League is a huge hit, I'm sure they will invest more and more money. But if it's just around the middle, and maybe it will be a big hit, but it might not engage that much subscribers, they'll have to be cautious on how much money that they pump into the universe in the future. So they might only go with smaller projects. Now, a Cyborg film or a TV series would cost a lot of money. Look, his entire body is CGI except for half of his face. The effects, the fight scenes, everything would be a lot of money. It would be a lot of work for CGI and special effects, post-production, pre-production. It would take a lot of work to make a Cyborg series or movie. It definitely would. But if he really is the heart of Zack Snyder's Justice League, that means that people are going to like the character after seeing the film. That means there will be a demand to see Ray Fisher come back. And I've also said this on my own Twitter account. I do think, now this is, anything I say, I don't have any scoops or I talk to some people, but I don't know what goes on in the business. And the thing about sources is, it's hard to trust different people with different sources because different people hear different things and different scoops are released and clickbait articles. It's hard to believe what you hear. There's some people that I listen to and I trust them, but other people I hear and I don't really trust their sources. But Zack Snyder's Justice League, there's a lot of heart in it got to do with Ray Fisher, and I've predicted that I think Zack Snyder's Justice League will do very, very well. I think it will be a hit. I think we'll get Justice League 2, Justice League 3. I do think Ben Affleck will come back, and I do think there will be a Cyborg film on HBO Max, and I think Zack Snyder will be a producer on that film. I don't know if he'll direct it because he'll be busy doing the future Justice League films. Now, this is just my theory. That's just my idea. That's just my dream. But the thing about dreams is, you have to stay positive. Now, the Snyder Cut we were told was never going to come. Never, ever going to come. But I always said stay positive, don't react, don't, it's hard not to react, but try not your best not to react, stay positive, talk openly, keep supporting the campaigns, keep supporting the hashtag release the Schneider Cut, and the Schneider Cut, Zack Snyder's Justice League will eventually come. And here we are, it's announced, it's coming in 2021, and we are excited. And that's only through everybody united together through a positive voice, and that's how these things happen. So I fully believe, I'm a big person on belief, on staying positive, on visualizing things that you want to become a reality. So I do think Zack Snyder's Justice League will be a big hit. I think the sequels will follow. And I also think a Cyborg film will happen on the platform. They're busy on the big screen with Flash and Cyborg and things like that. And it might be too much of a gamble to put it out in theaters and try and get big box office back. But I do think this is going to happen. I think a Cyborg film or TV series will happen. I'm actually more interested in TV series with these characters, especially Ben Affleck's Batman into a TV series, Zack Snyder's Justice League into a TV series, because I think you get more character development, you get more deepness, complexity with the characters, more realistic tones, more you can compare things a little bit better. You get to develop the story. You can just look at it in a deeper layer than a 90-minute or 2-hour film. So definitely, I think this will happen. And how would I do it? Well, I always said on Twitter and stuff like that, I think the best thing to do with a Cyborg film is to take different themes. Now, I love a comic book movie that's not just based on one comic, but it takes elements from different comic incarnations, okay? And also the director, whoever's producing it, having their own ideas and bringing today's world's problems and ideas into the story. Now, what's a more realistic and character that the audience can compare to, can relate to in today's age? Technology. Technology is a huge aspect of everyday life. I'm doing this here on technology. I watch TV, everything is got to do with a screen or a hard drive or something like that, and it really would be a very unique thing seeing a Cyborg film, especially in today's age. We've seen things in the past got to do with AI, things like that, but this is very, very interesting. And people could relate to this. There's a very deep story that you could tell with Cyborg. A very humanized story, and also a Cyborg story got to do with technology. And I think it would be very interesting and very unique in the comic book movie genre. I love comic book movies that are different. I love comic book movies that push the edge, that push the limits, that try and bring a darker, realistic, world-like feel to the story. That's what I love personally out of the comic book movies. Don't get me wrong, I love the goofy comedy ones, the Deadpools, and some of the Marvel films, but I prefer that realness. Batman vs Superman has it. Films like Watchmen has it. Films like Logan has it. Now people say to me, oh, they have superheroes and people that can fly. That's not what I'm talking about when I say it's a grounded superhero film. When I say grounded, I mean a story. A story that we can relate to. A character going through real life struggles, whether that be with love, with life, with family, with people putting them down. They are things that we can relate to. Getting old, like Logan. Batman vs Superman, dealing with that post-traumatic stress and the loss of his parents. People can deal and relate to those kind of things. Superman being alienated, being looked at, very specific to what's going on in today's world, especially with hashtag Black Lives Matters and George Floyd and things like that. It really does relate because people are being judged for who they are. They're being looked down on, and what better than Cyborg? A black man, a black character, Ray Fisher, a very, very good actor, I think, and a very, very good person. People can relate to this character of Cyborg, probably more than any other comic book character we've seen today. And that's got to do because he's a black man and there's struggles going on in the world right now with things like that, and also because he's a cyborg. And that's what we use. We use technology, and there's a unique story to be told. There really is. And a Cyborg story. Cyborg is there's a story to be told in Zack Snyder's Justice League. Now, Cyborg, his mother dies in a car crash while he's driving, and I think we'll see that in Zack Snyder's Justice League. He's upset because his father didn't make the game. There were those things that we already know, and he crashes and his mother passes away and dies. So there's something already. I'm sure it's going to be addressed in Zack Snyder's Justice League, but there's something that you could to do in a series, in a film. Him dealing with this dramatic occurrence in his life, getting to deal with loss, with stress, with not only losing his mother, but also losing his own humanity, losing who he was as a player, this big football star, now this cyborg that people look at in a weird way, and he has so much power, he doesn't even know what it exactly is. In his standalone series, he could address those tones of still trying to deal with his mother, trying to deal with who he is. Is he a person? Is he a cyborg? Does he have his humanity that he used to have? Can he relate to humans? There's so many interesting and complex ideas that you could do with a cyborg film. Zack Snyder's Justice League, does his father die or stay alive? I'm not too sure. But you could address that relationship. Would have Red Fisher character would have rather he had died with his mother in that car crash rather than be stuck in this body that he's in. There's so much power, he doesn't even know what to do. He doesn't know how to control it. So there's so much you could do with a cyborg series or a cyborg film. Now you would need a very good director, a very good writer to involve Zach. I'm sure as a writer, as a kind of a producer, he'd have a good idea as a story. But as a director, you need a really good actor who can hit those ideas, hit those complexities that the character would need to portray and to have. I think Ray Fisher's, don't worry about Ray Fisher as an actor, he can portray that no problem. We've seen it in glimpses, little glimpses of stills that Zack Snyder has released, in little stills of the original trailers of Cyborg, even an emotional side of Cyborg. So there's so much. Like, Cyborg is not going to be a happy character. This is a character who has lost who he was, and now he's stuck as a cyborg with only half of his face left. Now, what kind of themes could you hit with a cyborg series? I think there's 3 incarnations of characters that you could definitely hit. I'll start off by saying Terminator 2. Arnold Schwarzenegger played the Terminator. Of course, the first one he was the villain, the second one he was sent back to save John Connor. I think in an aspect, in a way, Ray Fisher's Cyborg could be a Terminator 2 like character. He could have to protect a young child, he could have to protect a person who holds a greater power, who holds something in the future. Of course, we get to see that Ray Fisher will look into the future in Zack Snyder's Justice League, I think, through the mother boxes or whatever way he's going to try and stop Steppenwolf. I think he sees the future in a way. So maybe there's someone in the future that they need to protect, they need to save, and maybe that's Cyborg's mission in this film. You know, this kind of Terminator 2 kind of, he's learning. In Terminator 2, Arnold Schwarzenegger is learning human qualities through John Connor. He's teaching him these things. I would find it interesting if Ray Fisher, he has that human side of him, but he's trying to learn not to be a human, but to be a cyborg. So Terminator was learning to be, say, as example, a cyborg to be a human. Ray Fisher is learning to be a human into a cyborg. That kind of way, that kind of aspect would be very interesting. Him protecting someone would be cool and an interesting way to go. Another thing would be Robocop. Now, Robocop, if you've seen it, it's a man who he's in a terrible accident and they use his body and they change him into a robot. But he has this humanity side still to him. He has these memories. He can't really remember who he is or who he was, but he has these memories of the life he lived before, his family, his love life. He wants that. He wants that back. He wants to feel those elements again, but he comes to the realization that he can't. He can't because he's this robot. He doesn't have that human elements to relate to humans anymore because of how he looks, of how he's judged. I think a Robocop element would be very cool. Also, him in portraying kind of Robocop in terms of the way he fights, the way he tries to discover what's going on. Those would be very interesting elements as well, and they're very similar kind of tones that could be used. Another one, I think, this is an interesting one in my part, I think Judge Dredd, or Dredd, the 2012 one with Karl Urban. Now, that's a great film, it really, really is, and I'm sad there was never a sequel made of it, but the elements that I'd take from that film is just the ruthlessness. The ruthlessness that Cyborg would need to go to protect this person that he's protecting, or to achieve the goal that he wants. He would have to get this element of himself. We see Ben Affleck's Batman, he's brought to a stage of his life where he doesn't care. He will take out anyone to get what he wants, to get the point across. I think Ray Fisher's Cyborg could have an element of that in him also. He wants to discover maybe why he is the way he is. he wants to discover how to maybe turn himself back into a human. These are elements that you could always hit with the Cyborg character. There's so much different routes, different patterns you could go with the character, and that could be another one. You could have Cyborg, this troubled character, this troubled he wants to be a man again, but he can't. He has to learn to be a cyborg. But the way that he fights, the way that he takes on people, he might become a little bit more ruthless than he may have liked. He may have to be shown the right way to act as a hero, because these people, Aquaman, Wonder Woman, Superman, they are heroes with extraordinary abilities, but they have to know the difference between right and wrong. And sometimes they're pushed over the edge to do bad things, even though they do good things. You can see it in Aquaman when he refuses to save Black Manta's father, and he later regrets that, and now he has Black Manta coming after him, and he can agree and understand why that he should have saved his father, so he regrets that. You've got Ben Affleck's Batman. He regrets what he did to Superman. He is more or less the reason Superman is dead in Zack Snyder's universe. You have Superman, who is still, he's regretted over what he had to do with Zod, one of his own kind. He killed the only last life of his kind, and he had to do it to save humans, which we're aliens to his race. So those are bad things that needed to be done to an extent at the time in the character's eyes, but they later learned to regret these things, and there's another element that you could relate to with Cyborg. Definitely, maybe him, whatever elements come out of Zack Snyder's Justice League, maybe him regretting his actions in that film, him regretting his actions in his own series of what he's actually doing with himself. So there's 3 characters that I would really love the Cyborg incarnation of Ray Fisher to touch in a Cyborg series on HBO Max. Terminator 2, Arnold Schwarzenegger's portrayal of the Terminator, Robocop, the old kind 1988 ones, that series of films, and also Dredd with Carl Urban in 2012. Those 3 characters, if Ray Fisher could take from those 3, or whoever's directing the film, whoever's writing the film, take from those 3 stories and implement them into this vision that Ray Fisher also has, I think you could have a really, really interesting, unique, relatable comic book genre movie. In terms of today's technology, we all use technology, we're all obsessed with technology, we're obsessed with being a better person online, all these kind of things, how we portray ourselves. And Ray Fisher said it before, there's a really cool story to be told there that can relate to today's society and today's world, not just on an AI technology basis, but also in a race. All the racism that's going on in the world now is terrible, and that can be touched upon in a comic book movie, definitely. Is there a comic book movie that has touched on this before? Did Black Panther do that in a way where racism is a big part of the film? Look, you have you don't just have a character. You've got Ray Fisher, a black actor, and he's also a cyborg. So people are going to be judgmental. One, because he's the way he looks as an AI, as a cyborg, and the other because he's a black man. And that's not me being harsh. That's just today's reality, and you can see that 100%. I don't agree with any of that stuff whatsoever. But that's there's a story you could tell there to relate to the black community and tell a really strong, inspiring story. And there's not enough black superheroes in the world right now. There really isn't. Black Panther did a great job of really bringing that to light. We've got Blade coming for the Marvel Universe as well, and Ray Fisher was he was first, really, wasn't he? Black Panther, when did that come out? 2018 or 2017? I can't really remember at the moment. But he was one of the first, really. And DC have been the first to do these kind of things. A standalone Wonder Woman film. So they should definitely go and make the first of its kind a superhero genre series or movie on a streaming service with Ray Fisher. I think that would bring a lot of attraction to the streaming service. It would bring a lot of attraction to the black community in a positive light, but also showing the dark things that happen and dark takes on black people. And Ray Fisher is, in my opinion, the most perfect person to portray that. He's a very good actor. He's a great person, and he talks openly about this kind of thing. So there are my thoughts. I hope we do get to see a Ray Fisher Cyborg film in the future, whether it be even a series. I'd actually rather a 6-part, 8-part, 10-part series of Cyborg. There's so much deepness you can go with the character. It doesn't have to be all action. You can go into the deepness of him trying to redeem his humanization, him trying to deal with being a cyborg, him trying to deal with the loss of his mother, him trying to deal with the consequences of Zack Snyder's Justice League, him trying to deal with his father, him maybe trying to deal with his love life and things like that. How does that work? There's so many things, for a person who is not a comic book reader of Cyborg, I want to see these things hit on. I really, really do, because there's such a great story that could be told. It gets me even excited thinking about it. It gets me excited that I want to be working on a project like this. I really would, because it's fascinating, and I hope whoever gets involved, if it's Zach or if it's someone else, I hope they really hit these elements, and I hope they see the potential in the Cyborg character. I really, really do. I may look at the Doom Patrol incarnation of the character and see what kind of ways they're going. Maybe they're hitting some of the aspects, I don't know, but I just really hope that this story comes to light. I really hope it happens. So just believe that it does if you really are a big fan of the character. But for any of this to be a possibility, we need Zack Snyder's Justice League to be a success, a roaring success. The fight, the war, the battle, whatever you want to call it, is not over yet. Yes, we've got the green light of Zack Snyder's Justice League coming, and we want Ben Affleck's Batman to come. We want this Ray Fisher Cyborg series. We want more Superman, but we need Zack Snyder's Justice League to be a success, and that's for us to make that into a success. We are part of the marketing plan of HBO Max. We really are. AT&T, HBO Max are doing great stuff with marketing. # release the Schneider Quinn and Zack Snyder's Justice League. They really, really are, but they need our help also to gain more people. They've got 30 million subscribers now, and it's a long time yet until Zack Snyder's Justice League comes. Who knows? They could have double that. They'd love to have double that by this time next year when the film comes, but we'll have to wait and we'll have to see. But we need to support it. We need to day in, day out still support, talk about this film, get it trending, support events, things like that. Support # release the air cut as well. But this idea of a Cyborg film gets me actually really, really excited. I'd even like to see this a little bit more than the Batman film, and that's coming from someone who's a huge Ben Affleck Batman fan. It really is, because I think the story that you could tell with Cyborg is just, it's fascinating. It really, really does. It makes me want to sit down and even write down some of these ideas that I have. And it's not me being a great, coming up with these unique ideas. These are surfaces that the people who are involved should be looking at to touch with the character, definitely. And I'm sure Zack Snyder, the genius that he is, he has already thought of these ideas. And I'm sure there could be elements of this already in Zack Snyder's Justice League. We don't know, because there's so much that we haven't seen. He said Cyborg is the heart of Justice League, and I can't wait to see that. Anyway, guys, let me know what you think of this. Are you excited? Would you like to see Ray Fisher in a Cyborg movie or HBO Max series? Let me know what you think of my ideas of kind of hitting the elements of the stories and the previous films that I mentioned, and also Ray Fisher having his own spin on the character. Let me know in the comments below. Come follow me on Twitter at MovieBuff100. You'll also find me on Instagram at Movies That Matter with the Viking. You'll find me on Facebook at Zack Snyder's Justice League. Come and engage. Come talk to me about these ideas, these topics. I love talking about movies as much as you do. So anytime you come and DM or openly tweet at me, I'll reply. Until next time, guys, stay positive.